Recently, I worked with a student that had this second serve. Watch and listen carefully. See how the ball is traveling in a straight line and the sound is a pop sound? After a few minutes practicing the drills I'm about to show you, he was hitting the ball like this. See how now the ball's path is curving and the sound is now a click sound?
Yeah, nice.
Learning this skill is critical to your tennis success because the curve created by spinning the ball provides safety over the net and inside the lines without having to slow down your swing and hit tentatively. Every high-level tennis player uses this technique on their second serves and a lot of first serves too. Let me show you exactly how to do it. Step one is we have to start getting comfortable with swinging the racket sideways. The reason why my student is standing here in the middle of the service line is I love using this position on the court to anchor two different directions of swing. We can use the center service line to practice swinging forwards. That's how we hit a flat serve with maximum power and pace. And we can also use the service line to practice shadowing a direction of swing that goes in a 90-degree angle off to the side. This is an exaggerated direction, but it's really at the core of what creates a big curving, big spinning serve. So drill one is simply to get comfortable with the idea of swinging out to the side instead of swinging forwards towards the service box. Here's a quick example of Roger Federer hitting a kick serve, and I'm going to draw your attention to three different critical fundamental elements. Number one, as he hits the ball right now, look at where his body is facing and look at where his hips are facing. His whole body is facing in a completely different direction than where he's ultimately gonna hit the ball. What that sideways alignment allows him to do is throw the racket in this direction. Watch the path of his racket as he hits the ball. He's not swinging his racket towards the box. He's swinging his racket out to the side along the baseline. It's not literally straight along the baseline, but I like using a 90-degree angle to start guiding students way out to the side, to exaggerate a little bit, to break them out of the rut that most players are in, which is to swing right towards the box. The third critical element to making this work is look at where the strings are facing at contact. The strings are facing the box, where he wants the ball to go. So we have his body facing sideways, his swing path going sideways, and his racket strings facing the box. It's those three technical elements that create the foundation of every great spin serve, whether it be a slice serve or a kick serve. Now let's go back to my student's original second serve. I asked him to hit a series of second serves while I was evaluating his game, and let's look at his body position. At the point of contact, his hips and his chest, his whole body is facing straight towards his target. And as he hits the ball, watch how his racket comes from behind the ball, makes contact, and goes forward towards the net. And his racket face, of course, is also facing towards the net. So everything is locked in a forward direction, and it's impossible to make any significant spin with these fundamentals. Here's a quick visual to hopefully really drive this home. The white arrow signifies the direction the strings are facing, and the black arrow signifies the path of the racket. And as long as the racket face and the racket path are in line with your target, you will always hit a flat serve. A really aggressive spin serve looks like this. The racket strings are still facing the box, but now the racket path is going in a different direction, and it's the racket moving past the side of the ball that makes it spin, and that makes it curve for safety and confidence. And that is where the term slice comes from. Imagine trying to slice an apple using the face of the knife. Hopefully you wouldn't try to do it that way. Instead, you would use the edge of the knife, right? And with a tennis racket, hitting the back of the ball directly, squarely with the face of the racket is never going to create any significant spin. So we want to attack the ball on edge. That's what creates slice, aka spin, which is going to curve the ball into the box. This is why my student's second serve was so flat, why he frequently hits so many double faults, and why we're starting off with just a very simple exercise of shadowing along the service line to start learning what it feels like to swing the racket in a different direction than where we actually want the ball to go. Step 2, I like to call hatchet throws. I'm demonstrating this for my student first. This is another kind of layer deeper, getting somebody who's never experienced the sensation of throwing the racket along the service line before to just kind of zone into that direction. And after throwing the racket back and forth with this abbreviated motion a couple of times, I'm going to ask my student to toss a ball and then hit past it on that same path without changing the angle of the strings, without changing the direction of the path of the racket. Please listen carefully to what this is about to sound like. That audible clicking sound is the sound that the strings make when the ball comes in contact with the strings and the racket is accelerating past the back of the ball on edge. The ball grabs the strings, moves them to the side, and then when the ball leaves the strings snap back into place again, and it creates that clicking sound. You cannot fake that sound. If you don't hear that sound, you're not creating significant spin. Here's what that hatchet hit looks like in slow motion. Look at how my body stays facing to the side. My swing path, the path the racket's traveling on, remains out to the side, while my strings stay facing forward towards the box. This is the secret combination to create virtually unlimited amounts of spin. Spinning your serve is great, but you have to have a fundamentally sound strategy if you're ever going to beat your opponents the way that you should and win the matches that you're supposed to. That's why I created the training at tennissecret.com, where you'll learn how in your very next match, you can do half the running and make half the errors and beat your regular opponents much more easily, just by making some simple adjustments to where you position yourself and where you aim as you hit each shot. So it's a step-by-step plan A strategy for your very next match, and it's completely free. Just go sign up at tennissecret.com. Now it's my students' turn to try the hatchet drill, and at first, we don't care at all where the ball goes. Initially, we're just trying to make that clicking sound with the strings, which is the indicator that you are cutting past the back of the ball. You hear that? Totally different sound. Here's a couple good successes, and now you can start to actually see the ball begin to curve and kind of dive back onto the court on the other side while he gets that reinforcement of the clicking sound. And here's what that looks like in slow motion. Now he's facing to the side with his body. He's throwing the path of the racket to the side as well, while his strings stay facing forwards. This is the combination to create huge amounts of spin and curve. Step 3 is to start going through a full service motion while retaining these principles that the hatchet has taught us. And what I'm about to show you is the number one mistake that always happens when players have never learned how to hit significant spin before. Watch what's about to happen to my student here. So what just happened was he kept his body facing sideways. He also swung the racket sideways the way we've been practicing. But instead of keeping his racket strings facing the box, he flipped his hand and his racket just before hitting the ball, which is what sent the ball straight off to the side into the wall right in front of where his body was facing. Tennis players on their serve in general are so used to their body, their strings, and the path of their swing all being locked in the same direction that oftentimes when I show players how to hit spin for the first time, they do the correct thing by turning to the side and they swing to the side, but then they also just instinctively turn their hand in that direction too, and that sends the ball off to the side of the court. And obviously, eventually we want the ball to go into the service box on the other side, which means you have to learn how to break apart where your body is facing, the direction of your swing, and the angle of your strings into different directions. And in my experience, this is the hardest part for players learning how to hit significant spin for the first time. Progressing from here is a matter of lots of high quality training repetitions using a combination of the hatchets, full motion, throws from the service line. Then once you get good at that, moving back to no man's land for a little bit. Once you get good at that, move back to the baseline. And before you know it, you'll be creating huge spin and huge curve in no time, so you can hit your serves with lots of confidence without slowing down and being super careful. Thanks for watching today, and if you'd like to learn how to have a master strategy so that you can run half as much, make half as many errors, and beat your opponents much more easily, make sure to go to tennissecret.com and sign up for that free training. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.